Well, good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. It is 9:05. It is certainly a pleasure for you to join us today. And, technology works with us and technology works for us, and sometimes it slows us down a little bit. We are going to get started. We have a number of attendees from a variety of different cities, and we're so much looking forward to today. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Leal, and I'm the Director of Local Government Relations. And part of one of the facets of our organization is our commitment to our partners, and especially our suburban city partners. And it's a pleasure to host you here today. Through the years, we've enjoyed being in person, but in today's environment, this virtual environment will keep us all safe. I have to say, it's certainly and always been a pleasure partnering with you and our communities to make them stronger, and we really appreciate your continued partnership with your presence today. Before the pandemic entered into our area, we committed to our customers in our communities to have a robust and meaningful partner engagement. Sharing our message with you is a valuable mechanism to enhancing the way we communicate and deliver service to you, along with your input to us. To better enable our public engagement and partner engagement, we will record today's summit and post the materials on our partner engagement landing page. And we invite you to share this meeting material and audio with your offices, interested parties, and fellow council colleagues who were not able to make it with us today. I also want to share a virtual hello from one of our newest members who is not with us today, Melissa Cardio Cox, who sends her best to all the suburban cities and partners that she works with. She's at home and doing well and will return to our team soon. She recently celebrated the birth of her second child and is at home with her husband, her baby boy, and now his little sister. With recent temperatures hovering above 100 degrees and forecasted to go higher next week, we encourage, just like the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District, that people over 65 degrees or children under 4 and people with pre-existing medical conditions, those that might suffer from heart disease, and those without air conditioning are at high risk from suffering heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat stroke when temperatures reach this level. If you know someone who is exhibiting these signs of heat stroke, cool that person rapidly with cold water and call 911. Be sure to drink plenty of water daily. Additionally, remember that COVID-19 continues to be a threat in our community, and we must stay diligent to protect ourselves and our family. Continue to practice and recommend measures to put out by the CDC and use proper personal protection equipment, PPE. Wash your hands, wear face coverings, maintain at least 6 feet of social distance, avoid touching your face, and most important, stay home if you're not feeling well. Thank you for your attention to these important reminders, and stay safe. I'll turn it over to Kevin Matula, who will facilitate our meeting today. Kevin?
Thanks, John. It's great to be with you all today. And for those that I have not yet had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Kevin Matula, and I work on the local government relations team, which supports our suburban cities. There really has since I've joined the team, and I've really enjoyed getting to know many of you. This morning, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing members of our senior leadership team who have made time to join us today to provide a utility update and give us really some certain look on the issues that are important to our suburban cities. First, you hear from our president and CEO, Paula Gold-Williams. Paula has been with CPS Energy since 2004 and has served in multiple capacities here at the utility, from CFO to eventually interim president and CEO before her permanent appointment as president and CEO. This last year, we're very excited and proud to announce that Paula received the inaugural Chief Trailblazer of the Year by S&P Platts Global. Paula will also be joined in her presentation today by Dr. Chris Euchster, who serves as our Chief Operations Officer. Chris leads all overall operations and strategy, which includes our generation capacity, electrical distribution, and transmission, along with our gas system. I've been here for almost a year now, and every time I hear her speak, I enjoy it all the more. So it's my pleasure to now offer the table up to Paula.
All right, that was very kind. Good morning, everyone. I am honored to be here talking to you all. I know we never all envisioned we would be meeting like this. San Antonio broadly and is much closer community. I have traveled very wide and far, and we're really authentic here. So I know using technology is not the most comfortable thing, but I know you all are leaders, and you're figuring it out as well, and everyone is doing a wonderful job. That said, we really appreciate you making time for this particular meeting. We do want to keep you updated. Um, John and Kevin and Linda, led by Kathy Garcia and Carolyn Shellman, are passionate to stay connected and reach out. But that said, our senior leaders really look forward to this meeting and others with you whenever we can. So it was important. I think we're a little bit earlier than last year. I think it's a little tricky to use technology, but I think we're getting better at all the time. And I'd like to say that, I don't use the term social distancing really much anymore. I feel like we have to physically distance to keep each other safe. I am wearing my mask. I'm here in the office. We work to practice what we preach because we are an essential service. We haven't stopped operations for a moment relative to what's going on. So we are physically distant, but we are socially connected. And we want to make sure that you know that we are here for you. A short phone call, a WebEx, a FaceTime, Teams, Zoom. We're open to all of those mechanisms, and just the plain old phone calls again to typically work. So please know we're here, and we're excited about talking to you today. So I'm partnered with Chris. Chris has a lot of interesting things going on, just like the rest of the senior team. He's going to talk to you about the fact that our concept is, again, we're an essential service, 24/7, 365. We need to make sure that our customers are well taken care of. You'll hear from Rudy Garza today, and we are trying our best to reach out to your constituents and citizens in your area. We're trying to make sure that they know about our programs. We have to keep the plane flying. But at the same time, we know that we have to think about today and tomorrow. And so we are still thinking global and acting locally. And Chris is going to talk to you about our efforts to get interest from across the globe to bring us new energy solutions. We will be retiring some plants and then over the next decade plus, and we want to make sure that we do it smartly, and we want to make sure that San Antonio solutions are affordable and reliable and resilient. So you'll hear about a lot of different things this morning, and we know that it is a lot, and we can definitely have a follow-up whenever you're ready to ask us more questions. So with that, I think we can just jump into my slides, and then I will turn it over to Chris shortly. I will stop here. We put this on there because I will say we will share with you. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. It is a challenge for us, just like the cities are going through challenges. CPS Energy is too. And when our customers don't have jobs, and when businesses are slowing down or going out of business or unsure about their future, it in turn affects our operations. So we have done some modeling and some projections associated with the effects of COVID. We've done a high impact case and a medium impact case. We are focused on controlling costs where we can, to deferring projects where we can, those kind of things. So we put out a disclaimer, and it is very much, we share the same type of information with rating agencies and investors. We're unsure about exactly how everything will play out. And so we have to say our projections are, in fact, estimates. We are officially updating our estimates every month, and we're doing pretty good. Year to date, we've had some good ability to control costs. We have basically a overall hiring freeze. We're only hiring strategically to maintain operations. So so it's working so far, but again, it's an estimate. So we put a disclaimer to say, don't lock in, we'll just keep you posted. Can you go to the next slide, please? So I talked about this a bit. You know, we have definitely monitored all the things that have happened in terms of ordinance requirements across our community, and definitely very much on top of whatever the governor is focused on in terms of staying home and working safe. We have to adhere. We have spent a lot of time talking to our employees about safe practices. Of course, you know, just like your employees, it's tough. In Texas, wearing a mask and all the PPE that you need to have on creates certain complexities for us. But methodically, all this, the senior team that you know have with you here today, we spend a lot of time now just thinking about our employees, how to keep them safe, how to make sure that our employees' interactions with the public are safe, how to keep our customers safe. There are times when our employees must still go into a property, go into a home, all of those things. Fred Bonniwell and I even did a video where we pretended to be the customer and like our gas troubleman, and again reenacted to the benefit of our employees how to change your behaviors and keep the business going and serve everyone in the safest way possible. We have a lot of things noted here, but we have policies, we're closely watching, we're listening to our employees, we're sending out all types of messages through our technology, send word now, text messages, links. We remotely dispatch employees where we can. We restrict the flow in and out of our properties to as need. And again, when you see our employees in the field, if they're not as friendly as they were in walking up to you and taking their mask down, they won't be doing that for a while. We're broken up into teams. We are not requiring when we don't have to employees to come into the office. We have about 1,200 people of our 3,100 people that don't come into the office on a regular basis. We want to create the right physical distancing on site, and we want to create the right physical distancing across San Antonio. But we will continue to adhere to these ordinances that are required, but we'll figure out how to keep business continuing so we can make sure that we're serving our communities well. Next page. You know, it's kind of hard. You can't see all of our faces because we're in the middle of this presentation, but I do want to highlight for you, this is our senior leadership team. And again, we meet in the morning every day, and we meet in the afternoon every day. This team of people are, you know, they're passionate. I'm proud to work with them. Again, just trying to be creative all the time, trying to think what we can do to make sure that we're putting our people first foundation in front of our decisions every single day. But this is the team that serves you. Our most recent ad or ads, you've seen Rudy Garza before. He has been promoted. He is now over our customer engagement area, the call center, the payment centers, the account management, all of those things. And so, you know, he's done a great job and got the promotion, and he's doing a tremendous amount of effort trying to make sure that we're stepping up our communication. And then our most recent ad is also an internal promotion. Gary Gold is now our interim CFO. He has been with us for quite some time, not quite long as I have, but he's been with us, and he and I have worked closely for years, and I'm proud of his promotion. Very strategic, knows a lot about just the energy business in general, helps us think through things very effectively, very focused on helping us controlling costs. And so these two positions have rounded out our senior leadership team since we last spoke. Next page. And I always want to get a huge shout out for our local government relations team. You know them well, you see them often. You know, the energy and the optimism that they have and the focus, very effective, passionate about what they do. And we are proud to have them, but I just always want to let you know this is the core team that makes sure that we are on top of things. Again, you can always get to us, but these individuals are always here to serve you as well. And I'm really, really proud of them. We might have shared this with you last year, but we started thinking about, again, we have a people first philosophy, but as we're moving through the future and we're having to make decisions, we wanted to also focus on what are the main pillars that we always need to keep in mind and push our decisions through so they're in balance, that they aren't about ideology as much as they are and about how do you serve a broad complex community like San Antonio, and make sure that you're thinking about all of the conditions, issues, risks around things. So we basically have 6 pillars, and you'll continue to see this over and over again. Reliability, we have to make sure that everything that our power is as reliable as possible. We are always thinking about affordability. You know, we compare ourselves to the competitive markets. We are looking at things that happen around the nation. We look at, again, different ways that we can control costs to keep bills affordable. It's been over 6 years since we've done an official rate increase, and we think that's the, you know, anything we can do to help save customers money, that's what we try to do. I will say, you know, I often get the question, okay, so are you thinking about it now? We think about a rate increase all the time because it's a delicate balance, and it's difficult to keep everything in check. We have a constant review of our financial situation. We do need to make sure that we are maintaining operations and we're able to adjust to the different needs that are happening in the community. But at the same time, we won't ask you as our customers, we won't ask you to give a rate increase unless we absolutely need one. So that constant focus is affordability for customers. Of course, as you know, we have to keep the grid secure. We have so many cyber attacks constantly, and Fred Bonningwell and his team spend a tremendous amount of time defending us and creating defensive solutions and also proactive solutions, and are very much up on what's happening. We have a very broad strategy around our security. It's integrated. It is cyber and physical. And our general approach is to make sure that we stay connected with law enforcement at the federal, state, and local levels to keep everything protected. And so we are patching, we are updating, we are communicating. We have an internal central group that focuses on looking at our footprint all the time. And we are continuing to do other things like partnering with other organizations across San Antonio where we can to set up operational centers and contacts so we can also know what's happening. Obviously, we're always focused on safety. This is a dangerous profession that we are in. Supplying electric and gas services at their core require a lot of care, and we want to make sure, again, that our employees are safe. It is paramount, and that the community is safe. And environmental responsibility. I mean, we have, you know, when I think about it, again, we've been at this of trying to think about low and non-emitting energy sources for decades. We put wind into our portfolio almost 20 years ago, and we have a substantial amount of wind, over 1,000 megawatts, and we have about almost 550, 600 megawatts of solar utility scale, and then we have distributed solar across the community, relative to rooftop, community, solar host, different products, and we'll continue to bring you those types of solutions. We get that. We close the DLE units. Our energy efficiency and conservation plan is award-winning at the national level because it has been extremely effective. We are looking to make sure that as we go out for this new RFI on new solutions that Chris is leading us through, we're looking again at the best way to put in the most environmentally responsible solutions into our offerings. And so you'll hear more and more from us. We're going to put more information about the things that we're thinking about, our positions, where we think the industry is headed. We now produce both recordings and transcripts of the discussions that we have with the environmentalists. They are very much focused in this area. We listen to them. We're open. We're having to figure out how to do it again to make sure it all works. That whatever we do keeps all of the other pillars in check, including customer affordability. So we invite you in, or anyone from your staff, to look at those materials and ask any questions around that. And then ultimately, again, resilience, which is kind of a cousin to reliability. We need to make sure, again, that as we put those solutions up, that we continue to be able to minimize outages, come back faster, making sure that our response to any fluctuations in the grid are addressed very, very quickly. So those are the main pillars. And I want you to know that we consciously are focused on keeping everything in balance. And again, we need to make sure that the company owned by the community stays financially responsible. So this is the way that we think about how do we make the best balanced solutions for you and your constituents. Next slide. So I'm going to run through these again. You're going to have these access to this information, and again, you can ask us questions. But here we are. We're in the middle of COVID, and we've been monitoring the impact to our community. And quite frankly, the way to read this is the month of June, most recently. July will be out fairly soon here, but we didn't have it finalized yet. And by sector, what we've done is kind of analyzed how the demand for power is looking. And of course, there's a decline because both we have a health pandemic and a global economic downturn that is affecting every community, including ours. And so, demand overall is down. Residential is up, of course. People are at home. More people are at home, working from home, hopefully. And unemployment, though, is up. And so just generally, people are consuming more at home. But then when you look at the declines in some big sectors, church services. It's not the biggest part of our load, but look at those double digits there, and education and hotel and food service. I know this is not anything that's surprising to you. I know that you see it in your businesses in your area, but people are very curious. Credit rating agencies are curious about this. Investors are curious about it. And so we want to be as transparent as possible to let them know what we generally see. When you blend all that together and weight it based upon the categories, we saw a decline of almost 4% in terms of the overall demand for our electric sales. So we wanted to share that. Go to the next slide, please. And wanted to give you a little history. So April, May, and June, around in the range from almost 2 to a little over 4%. So people ask us how bad can the impact be. I think initially we assumed that it could be 6% of a decline for the year, but again, that's why we put the disclaimer. We're just monitoring as much as we can to see where we're going. Every time, though, there is a relapse or a resurgence, again, what you're experiencing, we're experiencing, and we just wanted to share with you this is what it looks like right now. Next slide. And this is what we call a waterfall. Normally, a waterfall, what we look for is things above break even at zero. But I will tell you, we were probably doing pretty good in February. And what we ultimately saw when we did our reforecast as a result of COVID is that it looks like we're going to have a net loss. What we've modeled here to share with you is a medium impact case from COVID. And so, you know, it started out closer to 40, and now we probably got in the mid 30s. This is kind of a roll forward. So maybe a mid $30 million loss for the fiscal year, which ends January of 2020. But again, it just kind of depends. But this is our view. Next slide, please. The one thing I want to say here is, you know, earlier on we had maybe a bit more. The fewer months you have in the year, the more you know you're uncertain. We have been able again to make some progress. So what you see is we might be in the mid 30s now, but when we really started trying to estimate the impact of COVID, we were in the mid $50 million loss. Again, we'll keep you posted. This information is on our website. We present it to our board on a monthly basis. The team that you deal with can get you any updates on this. We have done a high impact case, which is worse than this. And we've been trending that as well. And basically what's happening there is, again, if sales are down across the sectors, that's going to affect us. The other thing that's going to affect us is whether or not recovery of the money, like the money that we bill, what, you know, how will that turn out? What kind of bad debt level will we end up? What will happen to business bankruptcies and things like that? Again, all of the things that everyone is thinking about and potentially impacted. Just want to make sure that you know that we're thinking about it and trying to figure out how that works. You'll hear it again, but I can't say it enough. Our perspective is you are a partner, and that the citizens of San Antonio are our neighbors, friends, and family. I was born and raised here. I've been a customer of CPS Energy longer than I've been an employee. Economic downturns come all the time. They're in cycles, but there is recovery. So our goal is to partner with the community, to partner with our customers. And so we did stop our disconnect policy. So we haven't disconnected since the early March timeframe. And we're still not disconnecting. It's in the middle of the summer, and we believe this is the worst time possible. We are waiving late fees for customers who call us so we can help them. We are going to do our best to be patient, and we are patient. We know people are going to they need to figure out what they're going to do, and they're making prioritization decisions every day. But there are long-term customers, generationally. Their parents were our customers. So again, we're going to try to do all we can to be helpful. We have started an outbound call program that basically we're trying to call customers. We don't have a rainy day fund. We don't have money set up that just will fill in the gap for people who cannot pay. But we do have some programs that we've had for a while, and we believe this is the rainy day. This is the day that we've got to make sure more and more people know about our residential energy assistance program, which is REAP. And then what we also do is the outbound call. We'll call and just talk to customers and say, how else can we help you? And if we can connect them to the food bank or connect them to a United Way agency, if we can look something up for them because maybe they're elderly and they're not that comfortable on the computer, or maybe they don't have a computer at all. Our people are trained to just keep doing whatever we can to help connect them with assistance. It's interesting. Customers aren't used to that. We haven't had an outbound call strategy. Our response rate has been great, and we've been proud of being able to help people. And anecdotally, we've gotten comments like people feel cared about, and they, in those calls, we're not asking them for bank information or payment information. Again, we're just trying to be helpful, and we're going to try to hold on to these assistance programs. We're committed to holding on to them as long as necessary and forever if we have to, because the response and the benefits for them have been great. So anyway, that's where we are there. Next slide. So, the bottom, we have the 6 pillars, and then we have this, foundation about financial responsibility to share with you and be, to be transparent. There's, 1,000 decisions being made by leaders across San Antonio every single day. And ultimately, we push them through our financials, and we make, we're measuring our financial health all the time, just like an individual needs to monitor their credit health. What do your metrics look like? Well, we calculate this on a regular basis. Things to note, as revenue goes down or bad debt goes up, that affects our ability to generate overall beneficial net income and or operating income. And the issue with that is the way the rating agencies measure us is our ability to generate that operating income, and they compare that to the ability to service the debt that you have on your books. And typically the minimum, not typically, the minimum that you're supposed to have and your ability to cover your debt ratio, how many times can you cover your debt, should be at about a 1.5. And if you look, the fiscal year that ended in January, at the very first column, we did exceptionally well. We were at 1.94. That's huge in comparison to the threshold of 1.5 that you see in the middle there. The moment you fall below the 1.5 as a utility, it is concerning. And it could, if, in a worst case scenario, if we could not manage out of this in the current state to improve our net income or operating income better, it could lead to a rating action. It could lead to a decline, and the significance of that is that will increase costs in the future for borrowing. That will change the appetite for investors on our debt. And again, overall, it's just this cycle that would happen. We have one of the highest ratings across the nation. Even relative to big investor-owned utilities, ours is at the top. We're in about the top 2.5%, just because being owned by the community and the way our model works and our good sound management, risk management, things like this have put us at the top. But in the end, it does matter about whether financially you can keep everything stable. So, we are flashing everyone there's risk, and that's the top metric is the one that we are currently forecasted to be outside of guidance. They'll typically probably put you on watch, but you just don't know when they will actually take an action. That said, we entered this period with a good management of cash. Cash is fairly healthy, and our debt capitalization debt ratio is not bad. It's pretty good. But again, we want to let you know we're monitoring those things. Next slide. This is we dropped this in here because with so many things to worry about and so many issues that we have, it's easy to think, everything is doom and gloom. We do share the fact, though, that we are award winning, and we don't do it because we're narcissists. We do it to reinforce for you that we still understand that it's important to be excellent, and that we gauge ourselves against others in the industry, and that we think about providing San Antonio the best of the best, and that we're making the right overall decisions. And one way that we know that we're doing that is we do a lot of benchmarking on our metrics. We make sure that we see the ability to improve our reliability, our safety, all of those things that we talked about, as well as, our financial metrics. That's one. Two, we put our performance out there in comparison to other entities across the nation. And in result, your utility is award winning. And we just want to reinforce for you, this is another way that we create a litmus to make sure that we are striving for the best performance that we can. And we want you to be conscious of this is just one way that keeps us driving to be a 24/7, 365 operational company that thinks about excellence for the benefit of its customers and community. Next slide. I am done. I am done. So enough of me. I'm gonna turn this over to Kevin to take us through, and then and actually no, I can actually Kevin has already introduced Chris, so I'm gonna let Chris go over. I'm gonna cut my camera off, but I'm still here because the more you can reduce the video, the more that the communication problems go away. But I'm still here and I'm on the line, so not going away. So thanks everybody, stay safe, and thank you for time to let me talk to you today.
Paula, I want to say thank you. This is John Leal for everybody else. And before we go to Chris, I want to thank the members of our Suburban City partners who have joined us today. We've had a number of them come in most recently in the last 10 minutes. We've had some WebEx issues that we've worked through with them. So I just want to say thank you for being patient with us and working with us, and thank you for joining us. And Chris, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Paula, and good morning to everyone. I'm going to start with a state perspective. So this is a weekly ERCOT report that comes out, and what it shows is for the most part, the state has recovered from the reduced demands that we've seen over the last several months. There's really no COVID-19 impact on the daily peak at kind of the peak usage level in the summertime for me, and that kind of makes sense with the high temperatures that we're seeing and the high residential demand that we're seeing. Weekly energy use decreased by less than 1%. So ERCOT, for the most part, has recovered, and this report comes out weekly, and I think it is available on the ERCOT website if folks are interested in it. You go to the next page. If we look at it locally, and Paula showed some very interesting stats in her presentation, this is looking at kind of at a monthly level where we've seen residential demand and commercial demand. And you can see again, overall, the trend is that we have recovered for the most part. If we go through year to date to July, where we are today, residential still is up about 6%, commercial down about 9%, but overall we're at about a 1% reduction in load, but pretty consistent with what we're seeing at the state level. Go to the next page. From a reserve margin standpoint, we are very healthy here at CPS Energy. Reserve margin is the supply that is in excess of the demand, the peak demand that is expected. So we are sitting on over 1,000 megawatts of reserve margin, 1,100 megawatts of reserve margin, or roughly about 20%. And that is well above the 13.75% planning target. So we have enough resources to power our community, and if we have excess, we help power Texas. So we maintain a strong reserve margin to meet the needs of our community. And we are a big producer in Texas. I think we're either number 3 or number 4 in Texas, behind Luminant, NRG, and Calpine. So we are a big player in the state of Texas, not only serving San Antonio. Go to the next page. Part of what we have done, which has been very successful, is we have a diversification of our generation capabilities. We've got natural gas, we've got nuclear, we've got coal, we've got renewables. So overall, we've got over 20 plants, thermal plants, and a lot of renewables that serve our community. And so if there's any issue with one type of fuel source or technology, others can step up and provide the power. So diversification has been a big factor in the success of our ability to serve our community over the years. If you go to the next page. And that diversification extends into renewables as well. We've got renewables across the state in our service territory. So we've got West Texas wind, which blows primarily overnight. We have Gulf Coast wind, which has a nice peak or afternoon profile. We've got solar, which produces when during peak hours. So you bring all of that together and you integrate that with our demand response programs. We see a lot more of a consistent generation of our renewables than having kind of one intermittent resource that is impacted by a number of different factors. So this has been a good strategy to diversify our renewables as well. And about 20% of our capacity is from solar and wind. There's some echo in the back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, go to the next page. Next page, Kevin. Our electric delivery capabilities, we have an extensive system of overhead, substation, transmission infrastructure. We've got 3 service districts and 1 substation construction location with over 500 field personnel that maintain over 8,000 miles of overhead lines, 1,500 miles of transmission lines, and serve roughly 2 million in our service territory. We also have underground operations out of our Malone Support Center and 3 operational centers, over 270 field personnel, and we maintained over 6,000 miles of underground infrastructure. So our field crews are committed to serve our communities and our community and our customers throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. Go to the next page. And these are some of the things that we are preparing for and that we have done in terms of mitigating the COVID-19 impact. We have, like Paula said, we have policies in place, mask wearing, social distancing. I've got my mask if I get out in the field, and so that's been an important part about how we have kept this at bay to the extent possible. We have created relief teams to fill in vacancies if things have been impacted by COVID or someone has to go into quarantine. We have a relief crew member that can step into that spot. We have developed comprehensive sequestration plans to protect operational teams if COVID-19 spread intensifies. So we are ready to go there to protect key assets like control rooms, plants, and at the grid level. We do perform daily temperature checks at all of our sites. We have self-health assessments, and we have restricted access to our control room. So we've taken a comprehensive approach under our CEO Paula Gold-Williams' leadership to minimize the impact of COVID-19, to make sure that we are there for our customers. And quite frankly, we're seeing, and I think you'll see this in Rudy and Frank's presentation, we've seen strong customer growth and construction continue to be strong in San Antonio. So we are there to meet the needs of our customers and our community. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Kevin.
I have a question for Chris.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Chris, that flex power bundle that you talked about, I want to make sure that there's enough diversification so it's not heavily weighted on one individual fuel source. Is that correct? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a few more slides. If you go, let's go back to, let me go through the flex power bundle journey. I missed these slides, and then I'll come back to your question. So okay. We have a very exciting flex power bundle RFI that we just released last week. This is part of our overall flexible path strategy that was launched under our CEO Paula Gold-Williams' leadership in 2017. As Paula mentioned, we retired 2 coal units with Dealey. We announced the flex power bundle and have gotten public input. And really, what we're trying to do here is look at all different technologies to your point, and I'll come back to it as well. So we wanted to put an RFI out there to really understand what is available, raise the global awareness of this before we got into an RFP, which we plan to do here in the latter part of this year. If you go to the next page. So what we are trying to do is really get to low or zero emission resources to ultimately replace our plants. And this has to be a generation source that basically can meet the needs of our customers. So it has to operationally be able to, follow the load of our customers. And we're trying to do this with up to 900 megawatts of solar, 50 megawatts of storage. But the thing that is really unique about this is we're taking an all-source approach to firming capacity. One very standard way of firming up the solar would be having a natural gas plant there to basically dispatch when the solar is not available or when the storage has run out of its capacity. But we really are challenging ourselves to look at all technologies, and they include conventional as well as things like long duration storage to other approaches. So that is the area that we want to really understand what technologies are available to firm up the solar on here. And so to your point, we are looking at everything. We're not trying to narrow this. We want to be very broad, and that really has been the impetus for the RFI and bringing that out before we went into the formal RFP. And all of this is a pretty significant step. If you jumped on me a little bit fast, Kevin. Is a pretty significant step towards the climate action and adaptation plan, because no matter what that firming capacity is, this will have much lower emissions than our traditional plants. And so it does support the direction of the cap, and our board of trustees did pass a resolution in support of the cap. And so this is in alignment of that. But to Paula's point, we want to do this in a way that works from the perspective of the pillars that we put together, and from in respect of being able to serve our customers reliably at all times and under all conditions. Go to the next page. And we do have a website, cpsenergy.com/FlexRFI, and there's a lot of good information there. So if you know folks that might be interested in participating with this, or if you just want to share it, please go to that website, and there's a lot of good information on that. Let me go back to the question that was asked. Did that answer the question about being very broad in our approach on the RFI?
You bet it did. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for what y'all do.
Thank you, sir. And I think, Kevin, with that, that's my last slide.
Great, Chris. Thank you. If anyone else has any questions at this time, we'd love to have them. If not, we can hold those to the end during our roundtable. So I'll pause for a moment. And if we don't have any questions, we'll transition. So thanks again, Chris, Paula. We appreciate it. Thanks for also staying with us throughout this presentation. Next up, we have Rudy Garza, our Interim Chief Customer Engagement Officer, and Frank Alvarez, our Chief Administrative and Business Development Officer. Their presentation will focus on CPS Energy's efforts to continue serving our community and adapting to the ever-changing environment which we're living in these days. We appreciate both Rudy and Frank being here, and Rudy, I'll pass it off to you.
Sure. Well, good morning. It's great to see everybody, even if it's virtually from our Suburban City stakeholders. It's always great year in and year out to see your faces and to talk about all the great things that we are trying to work on for our customers. And certainly we appreciate all the support we get from our suburban cities. So I'd like to just start by saying thank you for your efforts. I know for all that we've done with respect to COVID-19, I know each of you is working diligently in your own communities to protect your citizens and your residents from this horrible situation we find ourselves in. And I'm sure you get more complaints than thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you for your efforts as well. Next slide, please. So normally, this time of year, we'd be talking about all the great things that we're working on with respect to being ready for summer. This summer takes on kind of a whole new meaning in terms of the pivoting we've had to do with our current, COVID-19 environment. So safety certainly remains a focus. How we interact with customers out in the field, trying to keep our distance and make sure that we reinforce their safety as well as the safety of our employees has really kind of taken on a new meaning for us this summer. Our billing, processes, as Paula mentioned, our disconnect processes and our collection activity is pretty much at a standstill right now, and rightfully so. Our customers and our community are hurting, and our economy is kind of taking a hit. So how we've modified those practices has been significant. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on a future slide. And of course, how we serve our customers, really has taken on a whole new meaning, and the work that we're doing to reach our customers in every way we can has really been our focus this year. We're not out in the community like we normally are. Normally this time of year, we'd be having, town hall meetings and customer care fairs in your communities, and we're not doing that right now. So how do we find a way to consistently maintain that outreach? Amidst COVID-19, our entire process for what we do in the summer has had to change. Next slide, please. I always want to refer back to our outage map, and the way we're presenting information to the community really is evolving. And outage map is just one example of the type of proactive engagement we're shooting for when storms come. We've seen an uptick in the manner in which our news stations are starting to use our outage map during storm time, not only to talk about outages impacting the community, but also, with the overlay of the weather as it's coming through our system, it really has elevated the amount of information available to our customers and overall improved the customer experience. So I encourage you, as you are reacting to things going on real time in each of your own communities, to use that as a reference to link your website and your emergency response plans back to the outage map so customers know where to go to find information. But it is a really good tool and really indicative of the type of proactive engagement we're shooting for when it comes to to emergency response. Next slide, please. Paula mentioned the customer outreach, and the utilities across the country, they just don't do a lot of proactive outreach to their customers. I mean, our process usually is you get a bill. If the customer calls in asking for arrangement, we'll put you on arrangement, and if you don't pay when you need to, or keep with that arrangement, eventually you're going to get cut off. We just don't are not operating that way. Because for us, being a community-owned utility really means that we find a way to connect with our customers in every way possible. We were the first utility, one of the first utilities across the country to suspend disconnects at the onset of COVID-19 back in March. And since that time, we haven't just been sitting here allowing customers to accumulate, balances on their accounts. We've been really proactive in trying to find ways to connect. You can see, one of our San Antonio City Councilwomen linking to our community assistance webpage to provide assistance to opportunities for her constituents. And we're hoping everybody across the system is finding ways to link back to the information that we're putting out there because it's having an impact. In April, we started, late April, early May, we started an outbound call strategy. And to date, that number is actually a little dated. We're up over 15,000 customers that we've been able to reach out to. And actually, we've connected with over 50% of those customers. We're up, I think, closer to, between 60 and 70%. And of those customers, we've been able to put a good majority of the customers we've contacted with some type of assistance. And we're not calling customers asking for payment. So kind of let me make sure I draw the line. It's not a collections call. We're calling customers to check on them, to see how they're doing, to figure out if there's a community organization out there that might be able to connect them with to provide assistance. And if they're interested, we'll put them on a payment plan, waive late fees, and try to help them with their electric and gas bill as well. And so this has been a really outstanding effort on the part of our energy advisors and our members of our customer response unit. We're calling all customers, so it's not residential that we're focused on. We're reaching out to our small business customers who a lot of times don't have access to the same type of programs that the broader community does. And we're also working really closely with all of our larger commercial and industrial customers, to see how we can help them as well. And we're getting some really positive feedback. I was on a call yesterday with the team that we're calling this our customer outreach and resource effort team, our core team. And some feedback that we got from customers was that we're the only entity in the community that's doing any kind of proactive outreach to customers. They're the only call. We're the only call that they've gotten, asking how can we connect you with the assistance that you need. And the stories are just, they're so powerful. I'm so proud of, our employees that care so much about our customers. And I think this is a strategy that we will find a way to continue in some fashion as we move out of the COVID-19 period and kind of move back towards a regular business. Question might be, when are we going to start disconnects again? Well, you know what? Every month we're looking at various signals that tell us, where are we? I don't anticipate that we're going to start disconnects before the end of our summer peak season. It will likely be into the fall when we really, kind of get serious about looking at the timing of this. So we are trying to be really thoughtful, and it's not just our own financial, kind of metrics that we're looking at. We're looking at, what does unemployment look like? What are our local elected officials saying? What guidance are we getting from the state? What are other utilities across our state and across the country doing with respect to reinstituting disconnects? So we're trying to be real thoughtful about that process as we move forward. But I'm really proud of the effort on our customer outreach, and we wanted to cover that today. I'll stop there and see if there's a question related to this effort that I can answer.
Rudy, I think we do. It's coming in from Zena. Go ahead, Zena.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Garza, can you share some of the important safety measures that CPS has implemented to keep employees and customers safe?
That's a really great question, and I appreciate you focus on that. We've kept our, if y'all can mute, I think that'll help with the echo. We have, I don't know why that's doing that. Hold on, let me try something. Is that better? Yes, okay.
You're good, Rudy.
We have really been focused on safety of both of our employees and our customers. We've kept our walk-in centers open, and we've done that because it was important for us, to signal to the community that CPS Energy is going to continue to be here to do, the essential service job that our customers expect out of us. And so we kind of have twofold. When it comes to our walk-in centers, we have a lot of information up regarding, customers being self-aware. If they're sick, if they're not feeling well, we ask them to not come in and to use another method to get their business done with us. Where everybody's got to wear a mask. So if you're coming in, you got to have a facial covering on, or you'll get turned away at our walk-in centers. Out in the field, we're asking our field employees to maintain social distance when they're out and about in the community, and of course to wear their facial coverings. And for those employees who have to go into a home, we do have some very specific safety protocols that they typically will be wearing full PPE. They'll be wearing their masks. They'll be wearing gloves, and we try to minimize the amount of interaction we have with. We'll ask customers to maintain their distance. So we have done a lot of planning work to make sure that as we are engaging customers in the community, that we can do everything we can do to keep our employees and our customers safe. And even in the instance, we've had a couple of instances where our employees have turned up, positive that have been in customer homes. And we have a protocol for notifying customers if and when that situation happens. And it has happened in a couple of instances where we do our contact tracing to make sure that, that the event of an exposure, either customers or employees are aware and follow the proper safety protocols. So hopefully, Zena, that answers your question, but we are very much focused on the safety of our employees and our community in general. Thank you for asking that question. Kevin, let's go on the next slide, please. Chris mentioned growth. I'm sorry, Zena, did you have a follow-up question?
No, I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Excellent. The funny thing is, with respect to our economic situation, that building activity has not slowed down at all. In fact, it has increased. In terms of residential growth, we've seen 27% meter set increases on the electric side, over 33% on the gas side. Those are projects that were beginning at the beginning of the year, and we expected some slowdown by this time in the year, and that just has not materialized. In fact, we expect that activity to continue through the remainder of the year. We're paying attention if we're going to see a slowdown. Maybe some of the projects that were in the pipeline from a planning standpoint this year might lead to a slowdown starting in January of next year. But I can tell you, for all the projects that we're getting coming in, that growth trajectory still seems pretty bullish. So so that's a positive sign. That means that folks in the construction industry are still working and able to provide for their families. And all in all, we're pleased to see growth continuing to happen. Move on to the next slide, Kevin. And again, our residential is going to drive our total growth. So in terms of total growth, we're seeing the same picture, a little higher increase on the gas meter set side. We've seen some increases on the commercial side as well for gas, which is really fantastic. So overall, the growth picture in San Antonio, we still see folks coming to San Antonio, houses being built, and all in all, that's a good story for our community. Next slide, please. And I believe this is my last slide. You've seen a lot of marketing efforts from CPS Energy this year, not only with respect to ads we've placed in the San Antonio Express News. We are wanting to make sure we're reinforcing to our community that we're on the job and we're here for them. This is an example of some of the billboard material that we put together. We're constantly trying to reinforce the fact that we don't call asking for money. Now, we are calling right now offering assistance, but that is different than somebody calling and asking you to go to Walgreens or CVS and get a gift card and send it to the number to this to this telephone number. There's still a lot of just nefarious activity out there with folks trying to take advantage of people, especially during the summer months. So we're doing a lot of summer education right now, and one of those campaigns that's our new phony graphic. But we're asking customers to watch out for phonies and to not be taken advantage of during these summer months. And we think those type of awareness campaigns are the type of campaigns we're trying to shoot for in terms of educating our customers. So I believe that is my last slide. I will now turn it over to my colleague, Frank Almaraz, to take us through the next section of material. Thank you.
Thanks, Rudy. And thanks to everybody on the phone call. As Rudy mentioned, we sort of know the feeling to receive a lot more complaints than thank yous. And so it just strikes me that it's really great to have you on and to be with you today, recognizing the awesome responsibility that the folks on this phone call have to keep our community moving ahead in this time, which has been very difficult on everybody. And, to that point, the effort at a federal, state, and local government level to take action to keep all of us safe and the economy moving during this COVID time has been amazing, and its impact had many impacts on the community. On March the 24th, we received the order that all non-essential workers should be working from home, and CPS Energy was exempt from this order because, of course, we are essential, but we didn't, sit back and rely on that. As a matter of fact, long before there was an order out, we were monitoring the situation as it was developing overseas, and we're paying a lot of attention to social distancing. And I think there's some really good footage and pictures of Paula, our CEO, way back earlier in the year, beginning the process of, asking us to put hand sanitizer out in the boardrooms, and fist bump, and then later elbow bump when greeting versus shaking hands. And so we've, along the way, adapted and looked for ways to make sure that we're keeping our workforce and our customers safe. And as Rudy mentioned, the protocols that we've developed for being with our customers, we have also developed a COVID health and safety policy within CPS Energy that applies to all of the employees and contractors with whom we work. And it really gives guidance as to how we're going to work together to keep each other safe. Next slide, please. When we were thinking about how we would transition our workforce into different groups and to as many of the folks that could work from home, get them working from home, we organized ourselves into 3 teams. On the left, you'd see the orange team, and that's what we call distance support personnel. And that's individuals who really were set up to work from home already, or whose roles were made it sort of easy for them to do that in the first place. In the middle, that's white team, it's office essential. Those are individuals who, while they may be able to work from home, some number of them may be able to work from home for periods of time. There would be reasons why they'd have to be in the office for certain activities. And then finally, the blue team, and this is roughly half of CPS Energy. And this team is comprised of our skilled craft, the operational leaders that support that skilled craft workforce, and also the senior chiefs. And the role of this team obviously requires them to be in the office or in their field work location or in their service center to serve our customers and continue keeping the lights on and the gas flowing. And so it was really important to us that we make this happen for a variety of reasons. First, we wanted to make sure that that blue team was well supported, that we got everybody that was not necessary to be there and around them away from them so that we could maintain that physical distance that Paula talks about and to keep each other safe. So next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit here, and this slide and the next couple talk about what is a really interesting simultaneous analysis that we have to undertake in planning process. We have to talk about what happens if things get worse and what happens when things ultimately get better. They will eventually get better. And what is the timeline for each of those things? How will we decide what worse really means and what better ultimately means, or good enough to get us back into our usual work locations? So we have taken a people-first approach to all of the planning efforts, and in this, the effort depicted on this slide is our sequestration effort. Our power plants, one of which is depicted in the slide here, and our control rooms and the individuals that operate our distribution and transmission grid are skilled individuals that have unique access, unique security clearance, and unique skills to keep our community functioning during this time. And if we didn't staff these areas properly, we would cease to operate these areas and potentially jeopardize the delivery of electricity and gas to our community. And obviously the city of San Antonio and all of our suburban city partners and all of our customers rely on us to do this well. So what we did was identify a certain number of individuals from the job classifications that I mentioned a second ago, and ask ourselves, what would we do if we needed to get them pulled apart from the rest of our workforce in our community to keep them safe? And we have developed a plan and then a subsequent revision to that plan that is currently always in an improvement status to do that. So as noted here on the slide, the primary line of defense is hand washing, masks, and social distancing or physical distancing. And of course, those are the things that we rely on most. But should we have to isolate employees from other individuals, we have a plan to do that. And the plan is constantly evolving with our own analysis plus the input of our occupational health team, who themselves are being advised by epidemiologists and doctors and experts from all over the country. We have developed a process by which we would test and intake those employees, have them, live on site together, where we would provide logistical support, food and lodging for them, and do and work from that location, and then be at home to rest for a period of time, and then sort of cycle back through it as many times as is necessary if things were to get worse. I will note for you, we currently have 88 employees who have tested positive for COVID-19, and about half of those have recovered. So, there have been questions about what would cause us to take this step, and the answer is we're constantly looking at trajectory of the cases, both in the community as well as within our workforce. We're thinking about how those cases have grown and the speed. We're thinking about the capacity of the healthcare system to accommodate additional ill people, and taking those factors as well as input from the experts and constantly reevaluating this. And next slide, please. Which brings me to the next slide, and this is kind of where it's a little bit strange to be constantly planning for that eventuality that things might get worse, but also simultaneously knowing that things will get better, and hopefully soon. And when they do, we've got to make sure that people can transition back into the workplace effectively. The picture here is of our new headquarters on McCullough Avenue, and that building will be moving our stuff in the coming months, recognizing that we are not going to be moving our entire workforce back to work for the foreseeable future. But there are 4 elements listed here that have something to do with how we're going to achieve this goal of being one of the first out and one of the last in. This is under Paula's leadership. She has publicly said that while we were one of the first organizations to be away from your usual work location, and we're going to be one of the last to go back in, we have found ways to function effectively, and we're going to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. So we had to develop a screening plan, and that includes temperature checks and questionnaire to make sure that people have not been in, for instance, crowded areas or groups over a certain number. We've implemented social practices like that policy that which are encapsulated in the policy that I mentioned, the COVID health and safety policy. And we've changed the way that we're working on site, including limiting capacity. We've got signage on the doors for people that have to come into work, limiting the number of people that can be in a given work area. We've made modifications to the way that we're operating our HVAC system to allow more external air to be mixed in as a way to prevent the spread, or creating density of that of virus potentially in the air. So we're doing lots of things to make sure that folks that are working here and with us are safe. Next slide, please. So I'm going to switch gears here for a second and talk about what we've seen in the economic development front. These figures are from the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. On the left, this is a chart of unemployment claims and job postings. And of course, what you'd like to see is that job postings are, in excess of the unemployment claims. And it's from management, healthcare, office administration, computer and math, and transportation. Those all have more job postings than unemployment claims. And then when you get to the bottom part of that chart, and that is the personal care and service, production, sales, food prep and serving, those have, the opposite is true, with the biggest disparities happening in food prep and serving and sales. And those would make sense, I think, those make, there's intuition on that, just given how, the different changes that we've had to make in our community to keep everybody. And I think everyone has seen the really sad statistics about the number of restaurants that are closing either permanently or temporarily and putting employees out of work or on furlough. So that's reflected there. And on the right-hand side, you can see something about education claimants, or the amount of formal education by claimant category. And I mean, there's nothing surprising there. I think that slide would make sense to folks. But you can see as well that in May, we were at 12.7% overall unemployment for the community, and greater than 220,000, which obviously are sobering statistics. But I don't have a slide for us here today, but you would see that our community is in the face of all of this, have been very resilient. These numbers are not as bad as a number of other communities of our size in the United States. So we're pleased with that. Next slide. And what I just showed you is kind of backward looking. Looking forward, there are $11.6 billion of prospective capital investment program projects in the pipeline. Some of those will develop sooner, some will develop later, some may never develop, but that is an encouraging number to see that people, as Rudy showed in his slides of growth of the electric and gas systems, our community continues to be resilient. And I think I'll just point out that that $11.6 billion capital investment pipeline corresponds to about 10,000 prospective jobs, and those would fall into categories of IT, manufacturing, and then there's quite a big other category as well. So I think what this indicates is that while there's been a lot of demand destruction and challenge in our community on the economic front, the future continues to be bright. We are a resilient community. And I'm so appreciative personally of all the work that the folks on this call, all of you leaders in our community are doing to keep this picture as bright and brighter as we move forward. So thank you. That's all that I have, and I'll pass it over, I guess, back to Kevin to introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Frank, if I may, I have a quick comment and a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
Here in Selma and a good number of other cities that are on this call, we've all seen a good amount of steady growth and development, and have worked very closely with CPS to ensure that we have sufficient infrastructure that can serve this new growth and economic development. But I'm just curious, in addition to this, are there any other ways in which we can partner with you and your team?
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. I'm going to take that back and think about it, and other members of the team might have ideas as well. But I will say that we have meetings with international companies. Just I've had probably 4 or 5 WebEx meetings in the late evening. Companies in Korea and Japan over the last few weeks, talking about just that, talking about growth and how we get their companies to open up a presence here in our community. And maybe there's a way, and I'll tell you this, I mean, they really appreciate hearing from leaders in the community. So I'll take that away as something to think about.
Well, and Frank, I'd like to add, as soon as you're aware of a potential, a potential new business opportunity in your community or new development that's coming, the quicker we can get that into our pipeline so that we can do our planning work on our side, the more responsive we can be and timely we can be in getting service established. The customer engineering function now falls as part of our customer engagement team, which I lead. Timing is everything when it comes to getting us in on the front end. So I would just invite you to invite us in as quickly as you can so we can help you be successful in landing that potential new opportunity for your community. We want to be as helpful as we can be.
Hey, Rudy, and I think that's a really good point. And I would just add that that's when we know of something. I mean, it's such a good point. I'm glad you raised it. Helping us be aware of it so we can plan and put the best estimate forward and support plan forward as possible. The other thing that we find really valuable is having some dialogue when you have knowledge of a particular area in your community looking like it's going to grow in certain ways, because then we can plan our electric and gas systems out for those areas and be able to put those on our growth plan in advance rather than have to try and be reactive. So those are a couple ways, and just really appreciative of the question. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Rudy. Thanks, Frank. We really appreciate it, and we do know that we are getting close to the end of our time together, so we may go over on some time today, but we still do have a quick presentation that we'd like for Gabriel Garcia. He's one of our attorneys, a senior counsel here at CPS Energy, and just want him to have an opportunity to really share with us some updates on small cells and pole attachments. I know you've heard from Gabriel before, and he's very well versed in this field, so I want to pass it over to you now, Gabriel.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. I'm here to give you an update on what's happening in the world of small cells. You know, with the COVID pandemic, all of us have become more dependent on broadband access, and so wireless companies continue to deploy small cell equipment in all of our communities, and that means more demand for our CPS Energy poles as well as municipal poles, as these small cells are installed, and they also require fiber. So both of those things mean that there's more demand for access to our poles. So I want to give you some overview of the basics of small cells. This is information that we've covered before. So here on this slide, you can see the different types of installations and the different elements of an installation. So on the left, these are the types of small cell installations that you are seeing in your communities, and we're seeing all over San Antonio. These are the types of installations that we have recognized in our pole attachment standards. So it's essentially from left to right, you have small cells that are attached on the top of the pole. We have equipment antennas on top of the pole, in the mid pole, and then also those that are strand mounted. So you should be seeing these in your communities, and if you haven't, I'm sure you will soon. On the right, you can see the elements of any of these installations. You know, you have an antenna, you have some type of backhaul, and that's the fiber that's required in order to take the signal back to the wireless carrier's network. Then you have radio equipment, and then electricity, of course. And these elements are found in towers as well as in small cells installed on poles. So this is just an overview of information that we've covered before, but just to kind of give you a reminder, background of this is the landscape that we're looking at. You know, CPS Energy has developed pole attachment standards that we've implemented throughout our service area, and we continue to incorporate changes as the industry evolves their technology. And of course, we have to do that in cooperation with suburban cities. So we've worked with you in the past. to assist you in working cooperatively with us, so that we have one pole attachment standards across our service area and not multiple ways of attaching to poles. So one key way in which we cooperate is when a carrier comes to you for a small cell, keep in mind to first thing that we ask is that we have a joint meeting with customer engineering, which is now under Rudy's group. And that is just to make sure that the site that the wireless provider wants is one that's easily accessible for customer engineering to provide electricity. That will avoid situations of the city issuing a permit and then the possibility that providing electricity to that particular pole may be too costly and above the budget of the wireless provider. We have seen this in the past. Now, state law does this. State law, you cannot require this by state law, but we highly recommend it. And we are seeing wireless providers now appreciate that because it saves time and money to all of us. And we have created a form so that once that has happened, they can take this to your right-of-way office, and then you know that they have already met with CPS Energy, and that pole essentially is one that can be easily accessible to provide electricity. We also have state law, and why don't we go to the next slide? As you all know, the state of Texas passed a law 2 sessions ago, which is now incorporated into Chapter 284 of the Texas Government Code. The FCC has also passed a small cell order, in fact, several orders. And this slide and the next slide provide you an overview of both the state law and the FCC regulations. I'm not going to go through these tables, and we have provided this you in the past, and you will have this information to look back upon whenever you need to. The FCC continues to tweak its small cell orders and other types of regulations in terms of preempting local governments. So, for example, the most recent order that came from the FCC just less than a month ago has to do with essentially making it easier for wireless providers to make equipment upgrades to towers, and these are large towers as part of the zoning process. And I'm not going to go through that. That's outside the scope of this presentation. But just to give you an idea that the FCC continues to be active in this space because they're promoting the deployment of 5G technology that, as we said, is important in this time as we all depend more and more on broadband access during COVID. Additionally, I want to just remind you that one way in which we can work together, if you haven't done this, we encourage you to amend your city codes so that you adapt CPS Energy pole attachment standards to the extent authorized by law. That would give you flexibility in terms of working with the carriers outside the scope of our standards, but we really want to be able to have one set of pole attachment standards that will help you in terms of having technical specifications that can apply to your poles as well as CPS Energy poles. So if you haven't done that, we would encourage you to make amendments to your pole attachment, to your city codes, and adapt our pole attachment standards. This is something that local governments in various areas have also done with our electric service standards, and we see that as another way that we work with you and we cooperate with you. That's pretty much for my presentation. We just wanted to give you a short overview of what's happening in this space. The FCC continues to tweak these rules. We also have a legislative session coming in January, and there's also always the possibility that we may see more legislation in this space. So I wanted to give you a heads up that this space continues to evolve. because the need for access to this technology is important as the economy grows, as COVID continues, and as working remotely becomes more part of the way that we work in our economy. So with that, I'll open it for any questions and any comments that anybody may have. Well, you'll have these materials, and please feel free to reach out to our local government team led by John Leal if you have any questions on the material, or if you have small cells installations in your community and you need assistance from CPS Energy. We are here to help you, and we are here to partner with you. Thank you very much. Kevin, back to you.
Great. Thank you, Gabriel. At this time, we'll get started with our roundtable, and I think we have Linda Rodriguez with us, and she can get us started.
Yes, good morning. Can everyone hear me now? I had a little bit of audio trouble originally. Thumbs up. Very good. Well, it's
Yes,
so
ma'am.
great to be here with all of y'all today, albeit virtually. We hope we can get together soon in the normal way. I guess this is our new normal. As we always do each year, we like to hear a little bit from our Suburban City partners at the conclusion of our summit. We're going to do that here today in a little different way. What I'm going to do is call the names of folks I think that are on the line. Some have had to drop off at the 10:30 hour. But those of you that remain, we look forward to hearing from you, whether it be a question or a comment or feedback you'd like to give our team, CPS Energy, about what's going on in your community, how we can help you more, anything that's on top of your mind. So on the phone, I know I have Mayor Tom Schoolcraft. I have Mayor Chris Riley. I have Councilman Ed Simics from Live Oak. I have Marian Mendoza from the city of Helotes, our manager there. Scott Wayman, city manager from Live Oak. Celia De Leon, city manager from Olmos Park. Johnny Casillas, city manager from Selma. Kim Turner, our city manager in Universal City. And I have Zena Tedford, our city secretary in Chavano Park. I did have Mayor Bob Werner. I did have Mayor Mickey Ball, who had to drop off, unfortunately, but I will kind of open it up to those that remain on the line with us for anything that you'd like to provide. I'll start with Tom Schoolcraft, our mayor in Helotes.
I get to be number one.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I do want to thank you guys for doing this. I had a little trouble getting in at the first. I'm slowly catching on to all this technology. But one thing I was curious about on Chris's presentation when he talked about the wind farms and the solar farms, I saw that they supply 20% of the power, I guess, on the grid, that the percentage was that high. I was just curious how many wind turbines there are in the system, and I guess maybe the solar panels are in acres. How many acres of solar panels contribute that 20%?
Yeah, and good to see you, Mayor. I know you and I serve on the ACOG board together. It's
Right.
very close to one another. We can get you that data. I don't have that right off the top of my head, the number of acres and turbines. It's a lot, as you can imagine. We got it's a lot of acreage and a lot of turbines. So, Kevin, can we take that as an action? We can get that back to Mayor Schoolcraft.
Certainly, yes, sir.
Can I jump in a little bit though? When we supply that back, there's Chris, can you talk about this a lot? There's capacity, but then there still is the issue around the intermittency of solar. So you don't necessarily get it consistently every day. You don't always reach the 20%. The capacity is huge because without it, you have no opportunity to get it. And the more you can put into your system, your capacity level will go up, but not necessarily your delivered energy. Chris, can you do better than I can on that?
Yes, that's exactly right. So the capacity is ultimately what the capacity is for that renewable resource to deliver energy or power to a community. But that doesn't mean it always shows up for every hour. In fact, solar's profile is usually between late mornings to 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, that's seasonal. A wind farm, obviously, the capacity is one number, but when the wind blows is the energy that actually, or the power that actually gets delivered. Different resources. Like I said, West Texas wind has a wind profile that's mostly overnight. Coastal wind it's got an afternoon profile. So all of these have different production profiles. And to Paula's point, we have to be very thoughtful in how we bring these different technologies together because sometimes they complement one another. But we also need to have additional firming capacity. And that's one of the things that we've got that we're very excited about with the Flex Power Bundle RFI is we're going to look at all sorts of different technologies to firm up that capacity because, again, capacity and energy are different. Capacity is what it has a capability to deliver, and energy is what actual electrons actually get delivered.
Appreciate it. Are most of these independently owned and you all just buy power from them, or do you actually own some of these?
So traditionally, we have structured these as PPAs, which is a power purchase agreement. And primarily, two factors. One, early on, and again, to Paula's point, we've been in wind for 20 years. Early on, we did not want to take the technology risk. And to some extent, we still are very, very cautious about that. And so we only pay for what gets produced. And the second factor is there are federal tax credits that are available to that. And since we're a municipally owned utility, we can't capture that. That is done through a third party and then is reflected into the PPA price. We have started to look at owning some of this infrastructure. So we have a project that we're very excited about here in San Antonio, which is a 5 megawatt solar project and a 10 megawatt capacity for 1 hour battery project, which we own. And our power generation folks that run our traditional power plants, we are starting to train and skill up some of those resources so that we can operate these plants in the future as well.
Okay, just one last thing so somebody else can get in. I was intrigued too by the storage on that one slide. Yesterday, I talked to some guys that are planning to come in north of Helotes next to that substation off of Bandera Road out by Shadow Canyons. And they're going to put in a large 1 acre, not that 1 acre is large, but storage facility there with batteries in it. And I'm assuming this is going to be storing power for you guys. How does that work? Or do you have some information you could send all of us on that in case some of the rest of us run into that proposal by someone?
Yes, and Kevin, we can follow up with you on that. We are seeing interest by developers to put storage devices both at the transmission level and at the distribution level. And if it's at the distribution level, it's before the substation. The sites are usually close to the substation because what they're wanting to do is get access to the wholesale market, because the typical play for these storage companies are basically to charge up when power prices are low, like overnight when there's a lot of wind, or again, generally prices are low, and to basically discharge that power when prices are high. And so that's their business model. So typically they want to have access to the ERCOT market. And so they'll do those projects close to substations. And all this is, part of the rules and regulations of ERCOT. So there's a specific process to do that. And we're happy to kind of share that information. But we're seeing more and more interest in storage. And we have a couple exciting storage projects here in CPS Energy, but we'd be happy to talk to you more about that as well.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. And again, I appreciate the presentation today. It's been very, very informative.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Linda, call your
Thank you,
next
Mayor.
volunteer.
Hold on.
We can hear you, Linda.
Riley Mayer of Leon Valley. Mayor Riley? Mayor Riley might have stepped away as well. I apologize for that. Mayor, let's see. How about Marian Mendoza from the city of Helotes, our city manager? Is she still on the line with us? Okay, it looks like she stepped away as well. Scott Wayman, I know you're still with us because I see your face. Would you like to provide any comments, feedback, or have any other questions?
You bet I am. I apologize. Mayor Dennis is on a call today with the TML or the National League of Cities or something very important. So I'm here with you guys today. I'd just like to reiterate that we appreciate the relationship that we've had with CPS forever. You guys have been number one for us out here, and we appreciate all the work that y'all have done. I would like to just maybe readdress or ask if y'all can maybe think about helping us with some beautification of, I think y'all call it the frat station on Topper Wine. We have taken it on as a capital project this year to extend kind of one of those fencecrete walls along Topper Wine. It's an aging portion of our city. And that wall is going to help us out, but it stops right at the frat substation wall. And I've worked with Jim McCaden on this, and I've worked with Roland Hinojosa on this. And I know that there's some substations that you guys have that have a fencecrete wall that looks a little nicer. We'd just like to maybe see if y'all could revisit that to help us make that portion of Top Wine look a little nicer. It's a major artery in our city, and it kind of goes to the city of Converse, and it comes from I-35 right by our beautiful hospital. And we'd like to just see if we can't get that area maybe spruced up a little bit.
You know, Scott, I appreciate that question. While we won't look at it necessarily to quote unquote use it and look at it as a beautification project, we do have a need for non-conductive fencing. And so let us look at that solution there at Frat and its applicability. And there might be some ways that we can work in something what you're looking for. But on the engineering side, let's see that feasibility. And I think we have something that we can show you.
Well, there was kind of a material that y'all brought out that was non-conductive, but it was like a black plastic that looked like a construction fence or something, and we just wouldn't like to see that.
We certainly hear you, and I think we've got a solution.
Other than that, you guys are great. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Zena Tedford, are you still on the line with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I just also would like to thank your great team. I've been in public sector for over 30 years, and unfortunately or fortunately, have worked with Linda for over about 25 of those years. It's ironic. She follows me to every city I go. But it's been a great working relationship. Anytime the city's ever needed anything, she and her team have been very responsive, and we greatly appreciate all the assistance that y'all give us. So thank you, Linda.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zena.
Thank you.
Kim Turner from Universal City has likely dropped as well.
Linda, it looks like she dropped off.
Okay. Mr. Ed Simmons from City of Live Oak, our council member. Scott, do you know if he's still with us?
I know he was on for a while. I don't see him anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. Well, that concludes the attendees, participants on this call. Anything else that you'd like to share with us at the conclusion here? Thank you so much for your time. John, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Kevin, and all the participants and speakers today. Thank you for making this what we feel was a worthwhile time to spend together learning about some of the things that we're doing today. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it has been recorded, and we will share this on our partner landing page, our partner engagement page here at cpsenergy.com, for you to share with your fellow colleagues, fellow council members, staff members, and any interested parties that may be interested in what we're doing. We wish you the best on this Friday. Be safe, and don't forget, wear your masks. Thank you so much.